Thank you everyone for being here on this webinar about Windows 11 and what to expect. If you were at our April webinar, I believe is when we had it, we introduced that Windows 10 was coming end of life, letting our clients know that and the general public, just a heads up, hey, in 6 months, we want to start, throughout the next 6 months, let's start planning and get ahead of the game. So we had a webinar about that. It was very introductory. Kind of going over what requirements your device would need to have, how much storage, things like that. And just letting you know in advance, is my current device going to be able to upgrade? Am I going to need to start looking at new devices? Your kind of step-by-step checklist of what to do over the next 6 months. So at this point, we're a month out from the deadline. And a lot of our clients have already upgraded, at least a majority of their devices. So we wanted to have one more webinar talking about what to expect. And this could be as far as, what are the deadlines and risks or compliance concerns if you don't upgrade in time? Why are we upgrading to Windows 11? Talking about security improvements, phishing protections, privacy controls, feature overview. And any new upgrade is going to have some cool features that go along with it, including AI tools, performance enhancements, and hybrid work readiness. There are some alternatives and extended support if needed. If you're in one of those industries that's not able to upgrade quite yet, we'll review your options to extend Windows 10. And then at the end, we'll have a live Q&A. So we really wanted this to be an opportunity for our clients and the general public to ask us any questions they might have on this upgrade transition. So with that said, let me introduce who we are. My name is Jasmine. We're with CorKat Data Solutions, local here to Loveland, Colorado. We specialize in proactive IT support, cybersecurity, and cloud solutions, with a data center right here behind our office, as well as one down in Colorado Springs. We were founded in 2002 on the belief that our clients deserve elite, enterprise-level services without the headache or expense. And then a quick look at our team here. You'll see myself, Jasmine, and then my coworker, Scott, as well as, 20 other folks here. We're a CorKat family. When you're on the phone or messaging with us, chances are you're going to be talking to one of these people you see here. We don't use call centers outside of the US. When you call in, it's going to be someone local to Colorado. So with all the introductions out of the way, let me pass it over to Scott Gaddis. He's going to walk us through Windows 10 end of life and what it means, and then we'll move on from there. So go ahead, Scott.
Thank you, Jasmine. Thank you for the introduction and for facilitating our work when we send information out to our clients. It's really important. As to the end of life, it really is Windows 10 Pro technically hits end of life on October 14th. So it's had a 10-year run. Doesn't feel like it, but it has. Windows 11 was first released about 4 years ago and became more mainstream, I'd say, in the last 2 to 3 years. Generally speaking, with a lot of providers, Microsoft certainly one of them. You don't always want to be on the bandwagon early with the new operating system. There are some situations where, let's say in the home market, when they release their products to the big box stores and things like that, the systems we don't sell, they stop selling Windows 10 and they send out Windows 11. So it's had a 10-year run, and so has the threat landscape changed since 2015? I think that's a big yes, and exponentially so. And so for that, I applaud the efforts of Microsoft, hardware manufacturers, cybersecurity companies, and others to help move us forward and to try to keep us safe. So this move from 10 to 11 is really unique. In my experience, I can't recall another time where a new operating system specifically rules out old hardware. A computer that ran Windows 7, Windows 8, heaven forbid, I was traumatized by that stuff, could typically run Windows 10. And that computer and many others that came with 10 don't pass the bar for Windows 11, and we'll be talking about that a little bit more. For the most part, the computers that don't make it are usually about 6 or more years old. Um, I've never been one to ask people to replace computers for the sake of replacing them. When the system was impairing productivity, it was time for it to go away. That's a key distinction. I do find it amazing. There's so much focus on a one-time purchase. That's just a fraction of what things were when the PC revolution started. And I started about the time of the PC revolution. The IBM PC came out in 1981. I joined the industry in 1983. So it was very early on. Things were extremely expensive back in 1981 and 1983 dollars. And so, you know, a lot of times one of the things I consider is what kind of impact that slower computer has on an organization, because people are so focused on price, what's being overlooked is lost productivity, poor morale, downtime, things like that that are attributable to insufficient tools. So I would say certainly today things cost so much less in 2025 dollars compared to the dollars of the 1980s, and they're you know thousands and tens of thousands of times faster. But the return on investment on new laptops and desktops happens pretty quickly. So one of my editorials there. Um, the features built into the newer computers are chiefly the trusted platform module or the TPM are being leveraged to make Windows 11 more secure than any prior release. Nothing much was said about that as the processors entered the marketplace, but that feature was being incorporated. So if you look backwards, you can kind of see that roadmap towards where we're at today. The TPM itself, the Trusted Platform Module, is a secure crypto processor. It manages security keys. It's to be tamper resistant as the next line of defense for very sensitive information. Notice nothing is said about tamper proof or ultimate defense, but it's progress in the right direction. So yeah, secure crypto processor, $10 word. I'm not going to be using that one again. In a couple of slides, we'll talk a little bit more about what happens if you don't upgrade. So Jasmine, can we move to the next slide, please? Why upgrade to Windows 11? Why indeed? Well, the first answer to that, of course, is because Microsoft says so. But the real answer, though, is what drives most innovation in IT, and that's security. I mentioned the 10-year run of Windows 10 Pro. And so many of the initiatives that we've seen in an interconnected world are tied to security. Securing our companies, our organizations, securing ourselves individually, caring for the information belonging to others, including the government, has shaped the landscape that we're into today. Advanced antivirus, anti-ransomware, anti-malware, managed detection and response, multi-factor authentication, cybersecurity training. These and more measures are designed to try to keep up with or maybe get a step ahead of the bad guys. Now that AI is in the picture, maybe a little bit more of a challenge even there. With Windows 11 Pro, we're down to things like protecting things like our fingerprints and other biometrics that were put in place as security measures a long time ago and could be used against us now. I think I remember the first, fingerprint sensors that were sold as peripherals some 20 years ago or more. So we're really looking at Windows 11 protecting things that hackers could otherwise avail themselves of. We can get through some of the noted major improvements. Secure boot, so that it prevents malware from affecting the boot process and protects the systems at their most vulnerable stage in that boot process. If something enters there, it could get into the firmware or into RAM or something to propagate. Administrator protection, things requiring admin rights now prompt for extra authentication, such as things like Windows Hello, which is facial recognition, fingerprint biometrics, PIN numbers, multi-factor authentication. That further reduces a risk from malware or unauthorized changes to the systems themselves. Phishing protection, Jasmine mentioned that a little bit. It can warn users against sharing credentials in malicious sites and reusing corporate passwords. Stronger privacy controls, tighter permissions for your applications, uh, things for your camera, microphone, your location, so more privacy and improved management of your personal information. So, speaking of security, I touched on it briefly, but how's your company's employee security score, or even yours for that matter? We have a great training platform that I would say for the majority of cases people don't use. Um, our our corporation, obviously, we put a high emphasis on that. Our scores corporately are very high. We have a lot of uh, overachievers, myself included, that want to make sure we have a perfect score all the time. But understand that training is not just about protecting the corporate environment, but I'd say at least a third of the training out there is about us as consumers and what that crazy phone call is all about and how AI is being used to impersonate, a relative of yours that's in jail in a foreign land or another state. So security, sharpen the saw. I can't emphasize that enough. It doesn't take much to do it, but the scams that are out there, we've seen so many of them. Some of the controls are getting better, banks are getting better, but uh, gotta do the training and everything. And because really the most of the breaches come from those of us who are using the computers. And the old acronym is PEBCAC. The problem exists between the keyboard and the chair. And so if we've got our hands on the computer and we make some bad decisions and things like that, the computer's going to be in the hands of the next of people we don't want to have our information. So can we move on, Jasmine? So we've been upgrading a whole lot of systems for clients, pretty much immediately following the presentation Jasmine referenced before. We have excellent tools and processes that are deployed to provide a lot of automation to the upgrades, way better than having to take everything manually, certainly from the client side and from our side as well. Um, you know, it's as simple and as we schedule, we ask people to leave the computers on. We agree on a date when we get started. Just leave the system on, even in a sleep mode, and we'll be running the tools to do the upgrades. For each a system that we attempt to upgrade, we're going to get the results back very specifically. And we're always happy to see when it reports back as successful, and when it doesn't, we know why. The causes and the consequences of those failures, the processor is not compatible. So if that's the case, that's a showstopper. The system will not run Windows 11 Pro. And so on bullet point two, the new PC is that one option. Not enough storage on the drive. My goodness, I mean, this thing needs 64 gigabytes of open space on your drive to be able to try to upgrade and package and download that package. So that's a bunch. Post installation, some of that space gets reclaimed. I've looked at some information, and Windows 11 Pro is not tremendously larger than 10 Pro, but those files are needed. They're downloaded. And from what I can see, they linger on the system for about 10 days or so. And then they'll work their way out of the system and they'll free up that space. So, um, things like deleting your downloads folder, items in there, looking at archives, emptying your recycle bin, um, copying things over to another device as an archive to make that space available. There's a lot of things to do. If the processor is going to continue to work properly, it's a little bit of a headache to deal with the space issue. And of course, we have a lot of situations where the system just wasn't available. It wasn't left on. So our upgrade tool will just keep on knocking on the door and attempt again the next day at an appointed time until we get definitive results. And then we have people here that are working to inform our clients as to the status. So it's not October 14th yet, but we've still got a lot of pushing going on out there. So Jasmine, could you move to the next slide, please? All right. So what's changed in Windows 11? The first bullet point, yeah, that's the same old from Microsoft. Modern. It's user friendly. It's task management enhancements. For those of you, it's not really hard to adapt to Windows 11 from Windows 10. For those of you who ever saw and suffered through Windows 8, you know, that's a different deal. It wasn't user friendly. It wasn't modern. There was nothing intuitive about that change. They had to go back and re-engineer it so it acted more like 7. So if you didn't see it, use it. Consider yourselves lucky. So it wasn't very well thought out compared to what people expected from Windows 7 Pro. 8 was so bad that Microsoft skipped 9 altogether. And there we are with 10. So the AI tools, those are everywhere. The genie's out of the bottle. It's not going back in. For better or for worse, we have vendors like Sophos that's been using machine learning and artificial intelligence for many years to hone their products to understand what looks like, is this a threat? Have I seen this before? If I can't identify it, can I put this into a sandbox and isolate it away? And they use the term detonate. You detonate that package inside of a controlled environment to see what its behaviors are. And if it turns out bad, then that artificial intelligence and machine learning has paid off, and now it's something that it knows about and recognizes. I saw something a few years ago, and it's true. Most of the attacks that we see or that you see are unique. They're using a subset of about 24 different tools that are part of Windows, but the appearances of them and all that, if you're getting it, it's probably unique to you. And but a lot of the common tools are being used as potential exploits. That's helped fight the battle some. But faster performance, reliability, we've heard that as well. I think part of that's the processor, and remote work is definitely something that we've been ahead of for many, many years. The hardware requirements, I can tell you what's happening on the hardware front. This is kind of unique to 11 also, and to AI. In this case, I'll point out Dell. They've called business laptops latitudes forever, no more. Business desktops they've referred to as Optiplex, no more. The workstation class machines, both laptops and desktops, which was a little confusing, they called those precisions. And as Lee Corso says, the great host of College Game Day on ESPN, who just left, it was, as he would say, not so fast, my friend. All the new releases that I've seen from Dell now use the word pro and then just stack on the numbers, nouns, and adjectives after that. So pretty confusing. Dell Pro Max, Dell Pro Max Plus, Dell Pro Max Premium, to cite just a few. And that goes across the entire line. It could be a desktop, a laptop, it could be a workstation. So at any rate, we can help there. What's changed in there is that after many generations of the Intel and i5 and i7 processors, we really don't talk about the i3. The i9 is a very high performance, but not as mainstream as the i5 and the i7. Those were rolled out year after year after year, and they would just say, okay, this is a 6th generation, 7th generation, all the way up to about the 14th generation of many of those processors. So the new processors on the block are referred to as Ultra 5 and Ultra 7. And those are made for the AI world. And they have neural processing units built into them, NPUs. So the neural processing unit is what's supposed to optimize the AI experience. Um, and then in addition to what we're more familiar with, the central processing units, the CPU or the graphics processor unit, the GPU. So it's an interesting development. Time will tell what the NPUs do for us. But as you're looking at systems now, you're going to see maybe a little bit of the i7, some of the i7s lingering around for a little bit. But for the most part, you'll be seeing the Ultra 7s being Ultra 7s or Ultra 5s being put in. So for now, just add the NPU to your three-letter acronym vocabulary. So our industry is so full of those. Jasmine, could we go to the next one, please? So alternatives and extended support. This is something that we were not aware of when we kind of got ahead of trying to get ahead of the need that's out there to get from 10 to 11. Microsoft does offer a paid extended security update, and that's for people who don't have the ability to upgrade right away. It helps keep Windows 10 in play a little bit longer. It's a $61 per computer per year, or first year anyway, option that will have Microsoft sending you security updates for the year ahead. I believe they will continue that for a period of time beyond the first year, but I understand that the prices kind of step up exponentially. And as the slide says, it's common that you'll have some applications that you run that haven't been or maybe won't ever be developed for Windows 11. That's fairly common in a manufacturing environment, industrial applications. So that's another place, another reason, the why for the extended security update. There are a lot of developers who they're building, let's say, a manufacturing machine that has software that runs it, and it's developed for a specific operating system, and they don't update it. That system may be there for 10 years or 12 years or whatever. They never update the software. So at some point, not only is it the computer that becomes problematic, it's actually the machine that is doing the industrial work. The option could also be used because there are too many incompatible computers in the fleet and not enough money or time to really replace those. I'd say for all intents and purposes, we're pretty much at the point where ordering new computers at this point to replace old Windows 10 Pro systems would pretty much put us right at October 14th. There's quite a queue building up, and extended support could be considered, but be sure to continue or begin the conversations with us around the new system situation. Call me skeptical, but I started in this industry 42 years ago. To me, even the ESU option could present challenges at some point in the future. My insight into it is that, Microsoft's taking care of Microsoft, and also, you as a primary client user of the Windows 10 operating system. But I could certainly see that as going forward, they're providing security fixes, but I can see with such an enormous third-party community of developers, security providers, things like that, it's possible some of those applications, protections, printer drivers, et cetera, could fall out of compatibility, development, et cetera. So that could mean additional charges from the developers to continue to support Windows 10. So that's a lot to digest, probably enough to cause indigestion, but that's this old man's take on what's going on out there. And with that, I thank you for your time. I'll turn this over to Jasmine as we answer your questions to the best of our ability. Thank you for being here.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Scott, for sharing your details on each of those parts. Hopefully, we've answered a lot of the questions you maybe had coming into this. But if not, feel free to drop them in the chat, specific questions for Scott, or if you have things that you want to chat about, feel free to reach out to your account manager as well for our clients. So just in conclusion, the end date is October 14th. So we're just under a month out. PCs running on Windows 10 will still work, but we're recommending Windows 11 for the security and modern features, with the extended support for Windows 10 if needed. Again, that's $61 for the first year. And yeah, just making this as smooth of a transition as possible for our clients and just any of the general public that's watching this. I'm sure you're going through the same thing because this is affecting anyone that's using Microsoft. If you do want to reach out to us directly, including our phone number on here, as well as marketing@corkatdata.com. If there aren't any questions, it's not looking like there are any. I'll give it a couple minutes, but yeah, just get in touch if you need support. And thank you again for being here today. I'm getting some
Must have
thank
explained
yous.
a few things. If there's not too many
Yep,
questions.
we have, okay. Danielle saying if our company buys and they don't get here in time, what will happen?
I think with the deployment and everything, I think should be fine in that. I think in that immediate interim period, it's probably not worth spending the $61 to to change it if a new system is coming in. We didn't really touch on virtual machines. I know in some cases, based on compatibility needs, you may have instances of another operating system running inside of another. I asked somebody about that yesterday, a member of our technical team, as to whether an extended support option would be useful in that kind of a situation. He said it'd be just like polishing the Titanic. So, the technical team may they have their opinions and they generally state them pretty firmly to us. But you know, I don't see a whole lot of exposure immediately, but the support's going away. I say if things are replaced in the next month or two, I would judge that things would be okay.
Yeah. Anne had a question asking if the slide deck will be available for her to share with her team. Yes, of course it will. And we also recorded this, so I'll get it posted to YouTube so that it's a easy link that you can send out to your team members or business associates to fill them in on what to expect. And we're running up right at 11 o'clock. Any additional questions before we log off here today?
Well, thank you all again for being here with us. This is a pretty significant change. Based on the timing and everything else, I think it's a good change. We have to make those changes. Microsoft is finding a way to do this because they know where the threats are coming from. They know how people work. Our other security partners certainly know that as well. So, Windows 10 Pro, you've been awesome. It's been a great 10 years, but let's look forward to the next 10 with 11 Pro and whatever happens to follow.
Definitely.
Puts us on 11 o'clock.
Yeah,
Thank you all.
right at the mark. Thank you guys again and have a great day.